The galaxy had laughed at Earth for centuries. Not quietly, not subtly, but with a raucous, cosmic snicker that echoed across sectors and systems. Alien historians wrote of humanity as a quaint curiosity, an insignificant blue planet swarming with creatures who wore soft, warm coverings and had a penchant for arguing about the silliest things. War? A primitive joke. Technology? Backwards. Diplomacy? Amateurish. Yet here, in the midst of a routine interstellar survey near the Orvis cluster, the galaxy's greatest skeptics were about to discover that humans had a different kind of gravity, one that no starship shield could deflect. Captain Alara Voss of the Grelthian Survey Corps reclined in her command chair, tentacles draped over the console, sipping the iridescent brew she had bought at the last trading hub. "Have you ever seen a planet so thoroughly unimpressive?" she asked, flicking a holographic map that showed Earth as little more than a glowing blue speck. The other commanders aboard the observation ship snorted. Commander Thrax, whose scales shimmered violet in the starlight, tapped his clawed fingers impatiently. "They still use, what is it, combustion engines? Primitive atmospheric vehicles? Laughable." A junior officer squeaked from the console, pointing at the orbital feed. "Captain, they've detected our presence. Incoming signals, they appear to be music? Dancing? And explosions. Repeated explosions. Not defensive weapons, sir, fireworks." The word itself made Alara's tentacles curl in amusement. Fireworks. The species of the galaxy's laughingstock was throwing a festival. "Is this a mockery?" she asked rhetorically. "Do they know we are watching?" The display confirmed it. Earth's cities shimmered with color, streaks of light arching into the night sky. The explosions weren't weapons, they were art. Yet as the alien crew laughed at what they considered harmless, an odd thing happened. Earth's response did not waver. Ships lifted from the planet's surface, small but fast, almost comical in size, weaving through the orbital space like fireflies. The Grelthians leaned closer, and even the seasoned Thrax emitted a startled hiss. "What are they doing?" "They are maneuvering in formation," muttered another officer. "But no offensive weapons detected. Just coordination." The humans seemed unprepared, almost whimsical, yet their precision was uncanny. Every movement was synchronized with alarming speed, their tiny vessels dancing around satellites and debris without colliding. Captain Voss frowned, sensing an unfamiliar tension prickling her mind. There was a method to this madness. Something about the sheer audacity of their movements suggested intelligence that no previous scout reports had captured. Meanwhile, aboard Earth, Lieutenant Jason Kincaid grinned as he adjusted the trajectory of his small fighter. "All right, team," he said into the comlink. "Let's give our visitors a show they'll never forget. Remember, keep it fast, keep it unpredictable, and don't let them pin you down." His squadron of volunteers, pilots trained in evasive maneuvers that no simulator could replicate, laughed in response. They were aware of the alien probes above, but instead of panicking, they treated it like a challenge, almost a game. The kind of confidence that made the Grelthians' laughter falter, just a fraction. Back on the observation deck of the alien survey ship, Alara Voss' tentacles tensed. "They're playing with us," she whispered. Thrax's violet scales darkened in irritation. "Playing? With us? I command you, Voss, these humans—" He stopped, his multiple eyes widening. A small human vessel zipped through a cluster of debris and, against all logic, emerged unscathed. Then another followed, weaving through a previously considered impassable magnetic field. And then another. A ripple of unease spread through the Grelthians. It was no longer amusement that colored the room. Curiosity, tinged with apprehension, replaced laughter. They had underestimated humans, not just their technology, but their ingenuity, their audacity, their willingness to act without the paralyzing caution that characterized more advanced species. Humans improvised. Humans adapted. Humans dared. And humans, it seemed, found delight in the impossible. Alara Voss' tentacles hovered over the console, an uncharacteristic flicker of anxiety crossing her features. "We need to log this," she muttered. "The reports must reflect something unexpected. Do not underestimate them." Thrax growled, struggling with a concept unfamiliar to his species: respect for the ridiculous. "Respect for fireworks and tiny ships?" he asked, incredulous. "This is insanity, not strategy." On Earth, Kincaid's squadron executed another sequence of maneuvers, each more daring than the last. And still, the humans laughed. The sound carried through the comms, a sharp, joyful defiance that seemed almost to radiate into space. It was as though the galaxy's scorn was a challenge they had been waiting for, and they accepted it with a grin. And just as the Grelthians began to fully grasp the absurdity and the danger of underestimating humans, a loud, unexpected signal appeared on their sensors. Massive, precise, and coordinated. Not hundreds of small craft this time. One colossal formation, moving from the outer edge of the solar system, appeared in an instant. Its composition was unknown, its speed defied conventional physics, and it radiated confidence. Elara Vaz stared at the incoming fleet, her tentacles trembling ever so slightly. They're serious," she whispered. This is no longer entertainment." Thrax's violet eyes widened to their maximum. For the first time, the Grelthians did not laugh. They waited, hearts, or their closest equivalent, hammering. The galaxy had mocked Earth for eons, and Earth had smiled back. But now, the smile held teeth. The colossal formation advanced with terrifying speed, a synchronized array of ships so immense that the Grelthian sensors struggled to process it. Each vessel seemed to move as one organism, their engines pulsating like the heartbeat of a predator. Captain Elara Vaz's tentacles twitched nervously across the console. "Increase observation frequency. Record every maneuver. Analyze everything." Her crew scrambled, fingers dancing over holographic panels, but the humans were already rewriting the rules before the aliens could even comprehend the game. Lieutenant Jason Kincaid watched the approaching armada from his cockpit, a mischievous grin plastered across his face. "All right, team, we've got the big boys on our doorstep. Let's see how fast a handful of humans can make a galactic empire sweat." His squadron zipped through the ion storms of the asteroid belt, using gravitational turbulence to mask their approach. Where conventional wisdom would advise caution, Kincaid relied on instinct, intuition, and a touch of audacity. Each movement defied prediction. Each maneuver blurred the line between genius and insanity. The aliens' attempts to intercept the squadron were relentless. Grelthian warships flanked the formation, launching tractor beams and energy nets designed to immobilize the humans. Shields flickered. Systems overloaded. And yet, the humans laughed in the face of danger. They spiraled through the beams, twisted in midair to redirect energy flows, and exploited minor imperfections in the alien formation that no sensor could have predicted. One by one, the Grelthian vessels found themselves in awkward, unplanned positions, like clumsy dancers performing someone else's choreography. From orbit, Admiral Kale Morn of the Grelthian fleet could hardly believe what he was seeing. His eyes, adapted to detect even the faintest anomalies, tracked the humans as if they were playing a lethal game of tag. "Commander Voss, report," he demanded. "How are they surviving?" Why?" "They're improvising," Voss admitted, her usual arrogance replaced by disbelief. "They anticipate the unpredictable, Admiral. They're reading us." Reading them. The words echoed through Kale Morn's mind. Reading them? Preposterous. And yet, every attempt to predict human behavior ended in failure. The aliens were masters of strategy, of calculated warfare, but humans operated on a rhythm entirely alien, instinct paired with creativity, chaos choreographed with precision. Back in the field, Kincaid initiated another unexpected tactic. His squadron dispersed into what appeared to be random clusters, only to converge at points the aliens had assumed empty. He unleashed drones, not as weapons, but as decoys, each one emitting false energy signatures and holographic duplicates. The Grelthians fired indiscriminately, wasting precious energy on phantoms that vanished into the void. Meanwhile, the real human fighters slinked past defenses, dismantling communications satellites and navigation beacons with surgical precision. On board the observation ship, Thrax's multiple eyes darted across the feed, each reflecting panic. "They are not attacking conventionally," he hissed. "They are undermining us. Strategically, without weapons." The concept was unthinkable. In the galaxy's history, no species had neutralized superior forces without brute force. Yet these humans, armed with what appeared to be mere instinct, improvisation, and audacious confidence, were doing exactly that. "Captain," one officer stammered, pointing at the main display. "They've initiated a planetary maneuver. The humans are using the planet's magnetic field to accelerate their ships, altering velocities in ways our calculations cannot predict." Vast tentacles froze mid-motion. "They're weaponizing the environment. Earth itself," she murmured. Panic prickled at the edges of her composure. The humans weren't just surviving, they were turning the aliens' strengths against them. Their unpredictability, amplified by their intimate knowledge of their homeworld, gave them an advantage no conventional force could counter. Kincaid's squadron twisted through auroras and magnetic storms, drawing the Grelthian formation into zones of extreme interference. Sensors flickered, weapons misfired, and communications broke down. The aliens, confident in their superiority, were suddenly blind, deaf, and bewildered. And still, the humans pressed forward, laughing, shouting, and maneuvering like creatures in perfect harmony with chaos itself. At one point, a Grelthian capital ship managed to lock onto a squadron cluster. Energy beams lanced through the void, aiming to incinerate the human vessels in a precise strike. Kincaid tilted his ship, activating an experimental phase shield, and passed through the beams unharmed. Behind him, the rest of the squadron mirrored the movement, slipping past defenses as if through an invisible keyhole. The aliens reeled. Systems flagged. Confidence shattered. Admiral Morn's voice trembled as he barked orders. "Reform! Surround them! Converge on all trajectories!" But the humans anticipated each maneuver before it could even manifest. Every attempt at containment became an opportunity for exploitation. Kincaid's squadron split and recombined in impossible geometries, each movement synchronized with intuitive brilliance. The turning point came when Kincaid, spotting a structural vulnerability in the alien armada, directed his drones to infiltrate and disrupt internal communication nodes. The alien ships faltered mid-flight, their own coordination betraying them. Small, seemingly insignificant humans, not armed with overwhelming firepower, had reduced an entire fleet's efficiency to chaos. Voss slumped in her chair, a shiver running along her tentacles. "This is unprecedented," she admitted. "They are not merely surviving. They are rewriting the rules of engagement, with nothing but instinct and audacity." The galaxy had mocked Earth, confident in its own superiority. But now, the humans were proving that cunning, creativity, and the courage to act unconventionally could level the playing field, or tilt it entirely in their favor. The laughter that had echoed through sectors and systems now sounded hollow, replaced by unease and admiration, a realization that this species, underestimated for centuries, could change the course of a conflict before the first laser even fired. And as Kincaid's squadron zipped past the remnants of confused alien formations, a single, unspoken truth spread through the cosmos. Earth was no longer a planet to laugh at. It was a planet to fear. The alien armada, once confident and composed, now staggered like a wounded predator. The Grelthian ships, designed for precision and intimidation, were caught in the unexpected tide of human unpredictability. Sensors were scrambling, engines overheating, and communications broke down as human squads exploited every weakness with astonishing clarity. Lieutenant Jason Kincaid hovered in his cockpit, eyes bright with a mixture of thrill and focus. "They thought they could crush us with sheer numbers," he muttered, "but they forgot that humans don't fight like anyone else." Above Earth, the colossal formation had regrouped, a serpent of metal and energy coiling around the planet, its engines pulsating with destructive intent. Admiral Cale Morn's voice thundered across the fleet comm link, sharp and commanding. "Terminate the humans. Obliterate everything. Do not fail!" His tentacles, or the closest equivalent of a heartbeat in his species, quivered. The humans had turned minor maneuvers into strategic calamities, but he had not yet revealed his ultimate weapon, a planet-wide suppression field capable of collapsing any object that entered Earth's orbit. This was the final gambit, the ultimate assertion of alien dominance. Kincaid gritted his teeth. Suppressor field incoming. Hold positions! His squadron split, weaving into vertical spirals to reduce detection. The humans had already prepared contingencies, an array of phase-shifting pods, energy redirection shields, and microdrones designed to interfere with the alien network. Every piece of equipment had been tested under extreme conditions, every move choreographed for unpredictability. The first wave of energy descended like a curtain of judgment, engulfing several human fighters. Systems flared red, alarms screamed, yet the pilots adapted instantly. Kincaid executed a daring maneuver, guiding his craft into a narrow magnetic eddy that deflected the suppressor's energy just enough to allow him to slip through. Behind him, the squadron mirrored his action, passing through a lattice of destructive energy with impossible timing. Each movement was a dance of instinct and skill, a combination the aliens could neither calculate nor anticipate. From orbit, the Grothians watched in disbelief. Entire squadrons slipped through what should have been impenetrable defenses. Captain Ilara Voss' tentacles trembled as she muttered, "It's as if they're anticipating us before we even think." Thrax hissed, rage and fear mingling in his tone. "They're impossible! Nothing in history could do this!" Kincaid's squadron advanced, their focus now on the heart of the armada, the central command vessel, enormous, bristling with weapons, and shielded by the collective strength of the fleet. He activated the microdrones, sending them to infiltrate the ship's systems. The drones skittered into entry points too small for conventional craft, transmitting bursts of electromagnetic interference. Alien sensors went haywire, targeting systems failed. The command ship, the supposed apex of alien technology, was now blinded and vulnerable. "Strike now!" Kincaid shouted. The squadron surged forward, each pilot executing maneuvers that defied conventional physics. They didn't just attack, they destabilized, disrupted, and disoriented. The command vessel's shields flickered and buckled under pressure that should have been negligible. Explosions rippled through the fleet, not from direct weapons, but from sabotage and clever interference. One by one, the alien ships faltered, their synchronization unraveling. Admiral Morn's roar of frustration echoed through the void. "Impossible! They should be annihilated! This is chaos!" Chaos, indeed. Humans thrived in it. They exploited uncertainty as though it were a weapon forged for them alone. The alien armada, built for control and precision, was crumbling under unpredictability. Then Kincaid noticed the unexpected, a small but critical energy core powering the fleet's suppression field. It was exposed, unguarded, and vulnerable. A single, precise strike could neutralize the weapon entirely. "Team, this is it. Take the shot and end this," he commanded. With terrifying precision, one human fighter dove through the remaining defensive perimeter, weaving past fire and energy arcs. A pulse torpedo, designed not for brute force but for surgical impact, struck the core. A blinding flash erupted, followed by a cascade of cascading failures across the armada. Engines died, shields collapsed, and the vast alien formation began tumbling helplessly in orbit. The humans, using speed, agility, and creativity, had not just survived, they had dismantled the most formidable fleet the galaxy had assembled against them. On the observation deck, Voss leaned forward, unable to comprehend the scope of the disaster. They actually did it," she murmured. Thrax, normally unshakable, stared at the failing fleet, scales paling. "All our calculations, meaningless. Nothing could predict this." Across the cosmos, the ripple effect was immediate. Alien civilizations who had mocked Earth were now sending signals of concern, fear, and cautious respect. Kincaid guided his squadron back to orbit, grinning as the adrenaline faded into exhaustion. "Good work, team. Planets intact. Fleets incapacitated. And we didn't even break a sweat. Well, maybe a little. Laughter erupted over the comms, a chorus of joy that carried through the still chaotic battlefield. For the first time, the humans were not responding to alien aggression, they were defining it on their terms. As the smoke cleared, the magnitude of what had just happened began to sink in. The aliens had underestimated Earth's most dangerous weapons: creativity, courage, and the refusal to be intimidated. Conventional firepower and overwhelming numbers had been outmatched by audacity, improvisation, and a willingness to embrace chaos. And in that moment, the galaxy realized something terrifying. Earth had been laughed at for centuries, and it had learned how to fight back with a ferocity no one could predict. Silence stretched across the void once the alien armada collapsed into chaos. The massive ships drifted helplessly, systems offline, shields flickering. For the first time, the galaxy's most confident species were powerless, staring at a planet they had dismissed for centuries. On Earth, Lieutenant Jason Kincaid and his squadron hovered in orbit, hearts still pounding, adrenaline slowly ebbing. The battlefield had been brutal, absurd, and exhilarating, but it was over. For now. Unbelievable, muttered Kincaid, scanning the disabled alien fleet. We didn't just survive. We made them wish they'd never left their homeworlds. His words carried laughter, a human laugh, defiant, irrepressible, and oddly comforting. Around him, the squadron echoed the sentiment. Some were exhilarated, others exhausted, but all shared a quiet pride that transcended victory. They had faced annihilation and turned it into triumph. Back on the Grelthian command deck, Captain Alara Voss paced, tentacles curling and uncurling in agitation. She had studied countless species, commanded fleets across the stars, and yet none had moved with the audacity, unpredictability, and precision of humans. Thrax remained silent, eyes fixed on the holographic feed, scales darkened in disbelief. We have underestimated them, catastrophically, Voss admitted aloud. Not because of their technology, not because of their numbers, but because of who they are. Humans, it seemed, thrived where others faltered. They relied on ingenuity, intuition, and the capacity to embrace chaos. And in the face of overwhelming force, they had done what the galaxy had considered impossible. Kincaid's squadron began organizing the remnants of the alien ships, redirecting them to prevent collisions, making use of the ship's systems to stabilize orbit. Even in triumph, humans acted with ingenuity, not cruelty. As the alien commanders scrambled to comprehend what had happened, Earth's communication network broadcasted a simple, unmistakable message across the galaxy, a warning, but also a declaration. We are ready. We adapt. We endure. And we will protect our own. The words were transmitted not with threats, but with confidence, the kind of confidence that only a species who had faced extinction and laughed could carry. Across countless star systems, the message spread, reshaping perceptions of humanity in a matter of minutes. On the ground, celebrations erupted, not just in the cities, but in remote regions, across fields, mountains, and oceans. Humans danced, laughed, and shared stories of survival and bravery. For once, the entire species seemed united in one moment of triumph. The world had watched its skies darken with alien threat, and had responded not with panic, but with audacious creativity, courage, and humor. And the galaxy, long dismissive, had been forced to acknowledge it. Kincaid and his squadron returned to the planet, landing near the command center where Earth's strategic teams monitored the battle. Engineers and analysts crowded around, comparing data, debriefing, and improvising solutions for the next inevitable confrontation. Kincaid unclipped his helmet, letting his hair fall free, and smiled. Guess they weren't expecting humans to think outside their little boxes, he said, shaking his head. You could say they miscalculated the human factor, replied Lieutenant Marichin, her voice tinged with both relief and awe. We didn't just fight them, we outthought them. The mood was light, but the lesson was clear. Humanity had discovered a truth that could not be ignored. Sometimes, the greatest weapon isn't firepower or armor, it's the refusal to be predictable, the courage to act boldly, and the willingness to embrace creativity in the face of danger. Every maneuver, every improvisation, had been a declaration that the galaxy's assumptions about humans were not only wrong, they were dangerously so. Meanwhile, reports from neighboring star systems confirmed what humans had suspected: the laughter at Earth had ceased. Alien historians, diplomats, and military strategists scrambled to rewrite records, reevaluate strategies, and reconsider every interaction with this unpredictable species. For the first time, Earth was no longer a laughingstock. It was a force, measured not by the size of its fleets or the sophistication of its technology alone, but by the ingenuity, audacity, and resilience of its people. Kincaid watched the stars, his squadron gathering behind him. "We started out as a joke," he said softly. "Now we're the example." Marachin nudged him with a grin. "The galaxy won't forget this. Neither will we." And in the aftermath, Earth laughed, not at weakness, but at its own triumph. A planet once mocked now stood resilient, clever, and fearless, a reminder to the universe that audacity, creativity, and courage could overturn even the most powerful odds. Humans had survived what no one thought possible, and in doing so, had transformed themselves in the eyes of the galaxy, from a species to be laughed at, to one to be reckoned with. As night fell over cities, oceans, and mountains, fireworks, mere practice for Kincaid and his team, exploded into the sky. They were tiny reminders of what had been achieved: victory, humor, resilience, and the unshakable truth that Earth would never be underestimated again. For the galaxy, the lesson was simple: mocking Earth was no longer an option. And for humanity, the future gleamed with infinite possibilities, because the species that had survived laughter, chaos, and impossible odds had discovered the ultimate power: themselves.